in Hollywood. The cigarette that Brad Pitt has. When I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, is it that cigarette?"
I don't mind if you do. Just save some for me.
So what do you think about the fact that the president kind of walks away from Hassline, says, "And do you truly believe by that deliberate present-day action we can neutralize the possibility?" and goes and looks outside and it's dark outside? Is there some type of symbolism in the fact that he's moving away from Hassline and kind of looking outside and it's actually already dark outside?
Well, didn't we find that out like 2 minutes ago? Sorry, that it was already dark. We established that.
No, we didn't see outside. I mean, the president is darkly lit.
I think it's just a good directorial choice of, look, we're talking about some very gloom and doomy type stuff.
Let's go and look outside and it's dark outside.
And it's almost like the president is asking, and in the framing of that, does he turn his back as he looks through the window?
He does. He turns his back to Hassline.
So his back is to the threat, and the forward vision is dark. So you're definitely trying to visually, metaphorically say something.
I did notice that the mirror behind Hassline actually has a reflection of the room as opposed to...
Wait, so they're all vampires. They can't be seen in the mirror?
But we talked about this before the last time in the Oval Office when they had the mirror between the two couches and the desk. There's a mirror and it actually shows a reflection of the room, not what should be the camera crew and production. Right, so they thought through that, even though they don't necessarily light everything really well on all these sets.
They didn't think through it in the previous scene where we saw the mic shadow and everything, so at least they got it right in this one.
The thing about this time, we got a mirror. We need to actually show some reflection.
Exactly.
But there was something nice about him walking to the window and turning his back and kind of looking
Mr.
outside.
Taylor has done a great shot. Great job. I go back to the first minutes when I talked about the shots on the beach, how much more engaging and interesting they were. Even these conversations, I think, are shot better than the scenes between Zayas and Taylor that preceded the courtroom hearings, which, that was a great scene. But Mr. Taylor in this situation is directing this film beautifully. I mean, those ideas where you're actually going to allow somebody to look out here with the threat behind them, it's pretty interesting. And I thought across the board, once again, he's doing a fantastic job with this.
Yeah, but this is the part where it gets really dark when they're talking about.
We already talked about they're looking out the window and it's dark.
Darker when they're talking about provided we permit its birth. That's where they're okay. Are we going to stop the baby from being born or not?
I almost wondered. I mean, how much political conversation changes today. I'm not saying the studios wouldn't disallow that, but that'd be kind of shocking today when you start talking about termination of a birth.
But then you start getting people go, yeah, but it's just an animal. Yes, but it's an animal that can talk and reason. Right. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you wanted a deeper conversation to have Hassline and the president and kind of have like some college pass that would make sense for them to have this moment. The script says, provided that we permit its birth, a sharp glance at the president to bear or beget a talking ape buyer from a dumb one in a present-day jungle or present-day zoo. So Hassline,
which I thought was
already says permit its birth, and he gives a sharp glance to the president.
To see what his reaction is.
Right, waiting for
we can't do that.
But the president has given nothing up to these 2 minutes that says, other than prove it to me, to say that I'm on your side on this. And Hassline is kind of poking a little bit at this to see what he can get and push this idea that they're bad. And the president is still just like, the voters like him. I might like him. All right, you want it? Prove it to me. But Hassline is still suggesting something to the president that I don't think the president is ready to do. And it's but it's a conversation that I kind of wonder should have happened between him and the president earlier that would have let us know they have a relationship greater than just this random scientist and the president.
Well, I think that, going back to the first minutes, we talked about how it was a little odd that they've sent the spaceship off, whether this be Brent's or Taylor's. They've sent it off. And when the spaceship lands, they can obviously, it would be like the space shuttle landing today. We could look at it and go, oh, that's our space shuttle. And they would immediately see markings that would let us know what the ship is.
Right.
We discussed in those opening minutes that shouldn't someone have been saying, oh my God, it's this
Taylor's ship or Brent's ship or whatever.
That would have been a great moment. Somebody's contacted the head of science. He goes to the president, Mr. President, we have this issue. And you at least, Mr. President, Richard, whatever his first name is, and you even strip it away where they're friends. You could have done it at that point.
If the president had a conversation with NASA or Hassline, ASNA, I mean, actually, he mentions NASA, didn't he? Like 2 sentences earlier, like.
You got
Did they change it to NASA?
He did. Wait
Well,
a
I
minute.
can tell you.
Whoa,
I can tell you this on the DVD menu when you put it in. It says ANSA.
I was about to say it's ANSA and everything
According
others.
to the NASA experts, we're still subjecting the spaceship to microscopic scrutiny.
We're gonna,
I
once again, we do
Let's
not
go back
listen
and
to
listen to it again. But yeah, he said NASA now.
We'll come back and we'll verify that for tomorrow.
He said NASA.
They flubbed it.
Oops.
So anyway, my point is, if the president had had a conversation prior to this moment with Hassline, and they had said, "This is Taylor's ship. We're missing 4 astronauts."
Mm-hmm.
That would suggest the president a doubt into what exactly happened to those astronauts. Like, we needed this moment. Otherwise, you're right. Otherwise, it's kind of like a virgin moment. Magical apes show up and they can talk, and the populace loves them. Right. But had somebody mentioned the fact that the ship came from our own astronauts, that would suggest something greater, right? Like that would be the wedge at this moment that would give me the president's push me to the president, understanding why there might be something to do about this.
And then we get Hassline worried about them breeding with dumb apes. I mean, these are apes that are human sized and can speak and reason. They don't walk in the completely hunched over.
They've not talked about the difference between. They've never acknowledged. Look, these apes are different from the fact that they stand largely upright.
They're bigger. They have bigger brains. Everything is different than a chimpanzee. I would assume, look at a chimpanzee as we would look at a chimpanzee and not find it sexually attractive. They would go, "Why would I want to have sex with an animal? I want to have." I really
wanted to make the joke and go speak for yourself, but I thought that really would probably go way too far with the bestiality joke. But, yeah, no, but I think that's a pretty germane point, because he starts to equate it to that and starts to bring them to the level of the current.
Breeding?
But that's not true. But these films, again, have not done anything to differentiate other than they can speak and they dress themselves.
Yeah.
That's the only differential between what we have as apes and what these apes are.
Which is what kind of, not to get into new movies, but they are ape size. They are not humans in costumes. They are ape size.
There is a racial element that was brought up probably in the first 2 movies or the first movie about race and class, that you kind of wonder if Dane is kind of jumping back into, talking about smart apes breeding and having smart apes and dumb apes and so on, that you kind of wonder if he's trying to delve back into that argument.
Eugenics or something.
But it's not really followed through. It's just one of the many times all of these movies have, here's something political right now. And we're talking about, letting the child, be born. There's an element there that would have been fascinating for an entire subject for a movie that we're not necessarily going to get, or we don't know at this point.
Yeah.
Like, there's all these political moments where you're like, they're making a political point, but they're not really honing in on refining it, making it an actual substantive moment.
I really felt that Dane, in these moments, is going back to the final shooting script that Michael Wilson wrote for Apes, and did almost look at the political conversations. And I almost wish that Dane had been a part of that first script, because I thought this conversation, even these things that we're talking about, the back and forth, I think it's so much more on point, and it's a true conversation between 2 people than possibly the first film. We talked about how the first film got so all over the place where it's trying to pull in every element. This is just thought-provoking, and when we get to tomorrow, I actually have notes about it. I was like, whoa, these may be some of the biggest thoughts that I think the film has ever concisely put out to make you think. And I think Dane, at this moment, takes a step into a new world, at least as far as what he's brought to Apes up to this point. Wow, that's it. I love it when
shut down the conversation.
I shut down the conversation
it's
because
over.
Both of you look like we don't give a crap, Todd. That's awesome.
We got 2 more minutes to go.
All right, we'll get to Thursday tomorrow.
Really?
Right? Is that how it works?
That's how it works.
All right.
Thursday tomorrow, yeah. I think so.
I think both of you suck. But until then, that's Richard and Sean. I'm Todd. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.